My name is John Amon, and this is a poem called Cold. Hours before the dogs plowed the ivy, dragging loud summer in their teeth, I'd been transposed mid-refrain, bass clef branded on my inner thigh. He glued a bow into my left hand, tearing arpeggios from the moon. I was his sculpture, tableau, diorama, his failed baptism turned inside out. My intestines rang like singing bowls. Cathedral constructed, tablature traced, he paused in the irony, eyes skyward, stamped his palms into the riverbed as chains of new light shimmered on the hill. He twined my last words around, tuned my spine, skin glowing rosin, tongue stretched like a whole note. My flesh was the red cello, cracked violin, the whispering viola of his dreams, his masterpiece, wrenched from silence. Well, I've always been drawn to poetry. I think the use of musical language, the incorporation of images, I've always been drawn to that. There's something kind of alchemical about poetry. I mean, the artistic process in general, but I think poetry specifically. There are some possibilities for using language that I don't find in other ways of writing. So yeah, I feel since I've been a teen, I've been drawn to trying to capture experiences, in a language that sort of creates an epic context. Yeah. Well, I have to say, I mean, I know it's a dark piece, but I have a series of a few poems where I was sort of working, I guess, with a sort of a response to the horror genre, and particularly the sort of the serial killer crime drama genre in a way. So this image comes out of I don't know, just kind of an imagination of a killer's signature and the experience that somebody might go through, as they're being put through the bizarre ritual that a killer like that might have. Yeah. I think a lot of it in this particular case, the process revolved around trying to integrate the bizarre images and the bizarre nature of the poem, even energetically. There's a kind of strangeness to it, So I think to kind of try to integrate all those elements. I mean, on one hand, it's disturbing, but it's also accessible, I hope. There are a lot of things to pull together there to where it's, sort of enrolling the reader almost like with a kind of dark voyeurism, and at the same time sort of having that impact that, this exists in the world as well. So I think just trying to sort of trying to capture that in a credible way. The poem is not specifically in a what I would call a formal form. But it's more driven, I guess you could say, rhythmically. The lines are, that's the other challenge in the process with free verse, is to still have music and rhythm, and a kind of integration that, of course, rhyme or something like that could bring. But still, there are a lot of sonic elements to consider. So while it's not an obvious form, you still want the piece to be integrated to the level where it feels like one line flows from the next, and a lot of that I think has to do with rhythm in this case. Wow, that's a tough one. Yeah, it's hard to give a tip about writing poetry. I mean, I think you have to dive in. I think dive in. Your voice or voices. You know, search for the language that's your own. They say, write what you know. Well, maybe that, but also write what you don't know. Of course, reading helps. I think reading is, you learn about precedents, what has been done, what kind of expression has happened. So reading helps to encounter things that have been done in the past, and also can inspire you, can trigger responses. But all that said, I think really you kind of jump in and hopefully for the long haul. I mean, I think the creative process, as you may know, and I mean, it's really kind of a lifelong process. So you got to just keep seeking for the words that capture what it is you're wanting to say, gathering images, studying the music of language. But at the risk of repeating myself again, I think just commit to the process and engage with it every day if you can. Yeah, I think that's a good question, actually. I think one thing I notice when people read a lot of times is that they don't indicate line breaks in their reading. They read the poem as if it's prose, and I find that odd because the line break is such an important part of a poem. I mean, it indicates the presence of breath. It indicates a pause. At least as I read it. So I think that's one thing, is to be true to your line, to the lines when you're reading, rather than just, almost like you're reading as if you're word wrapping in a Word doc. The other thing I think is slow down. A lot of people read very rapidly, and try to bring some variation with your voice. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I think a lot of poets are, can sort of read in them. So you've got this beautiful piece that has all these kind of emotional nuances, but the lines are just running together, and the voice is sort of in a drone, so the energy of the piece isn't being conveyed. But I think those would be the main things would be integrate your line breaks into your delivery, notice your breath, and notice your pace. Wow. There's a lot, I can answer in a lot of ways. I think right now I'll go back to Keats's Ode to a Nightingale, which is obviously a canonized piece. I don't know. I think that particular combination of epic vision and concrete language, not to mention a mastery of rhythm, are exemplary. A poem like that, I think, takes the reader on such a powerful journey. The integration, the cohesion of the piece are masterful. I think some of the deep longings we feel are captured there. The whole process of imagination, but then dealing with reality. The high and then the crash, there's just there's a lot of very powerful elements in there. But I think the epic voice, the very haunting imagery, and then just an absolute impeccable sense of music with the English language. Well, I could say, I'm an editor of a Pedestal magazine. We actually have been publishing for 20 years now. It's thepedestalmagazine.com, and I would welcome people who are interested in poetry and art. We also publish some art to visit that. We just posted a new issue June, and there's our 87th issue, and so we again publish a lot of contemporary poetry and art on a quarterly basis, and would welcome readers to look at our current issue and some of the archive content.